our panel of activists and volunteers. We're going to, first we're going to start it in a little bit with a documentary done, but I want to introduce our panel first. We have Dr. Ehsan Mirza, I'm sorry, he's here. You have their bios in front of you, and we also have his son Hamza Mirza, who we're going to be viewing his documentary in a couple of minutes, and we are wonderful, very happy to have Dr. N. Bakhtiri, who have joined us today to talk about their experiences going back to Pakistan to help the children there, particularly orphans in their orphanage. Just show of hands, how many of you already do some kind of volunteering in your community, neighborhood, whether it's giving canned donations or anything like that, working with food pantries? So we do have a couple people. Great. So hopefully by the end of this panel, perhaps you will take away with you maybe different ways that you can get involved, right? Malala, one of my favorite quotes from her is, you know, it's one girl, one book, one pen can make a difference, and you can make a difference. Even if it's, we're doing a lot of food drives around campus, even if it's just bringing canned goods and dropping it off in a box, you did something, right? It's better than just watching some of the stuff go on in the news and just say, oh, that's so sad, and it's just too bad, and then changing the channel, right? We all need to make a difference. So without further ado, we're gonna start just a small clip of the documentary that Hamza has put together, went back to Pakistan and filmed for us. So go ahead. I want to thank you for that. That's extraordinary. So now that we have our full panel, I'd like you all to just, again, introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about the work that you do. Starting with you, Hamza, tell us a little about how you, where you go to school and how you started with this documentary.
Hey everyone. So I'm a sophomore at the University of Connecticut. I've started this work at a pretty young age. I'm lucky enough to have the grandmother and the parents that I do. I spent a lot of summers in Pakistan working with my grandmother. When there was the earthquake in '05, I was with my grandmother. We were doing relief there. I spent plenty of summers working with my grandmother's organization, IDSP. I've spent a good amount, me and my father, we went to Pakistan last winter, did a medical camp there where he actually just came back from doing a second one. So I've been pretty involved with doing work in Pakistan, and service has always been a pretty big issue in my own life. I worked with an organization at Brown called International Exchange, and we would do work with the family homeless shelter in Providence and working with recent immigrants and helping them assimilate into life in Rhode Island. I went to LaSalle Academy in Providence, so I've lived in Rhode Island most of my life. And now that UConn, I'm doing my own work there. I'm fundraising. I actually had a fundraiser last night where we raised money to adopt an orphan for all intents and purposes. And I'm showcasing this movie at UConn next semester, hopefully raise more money for them. I'm just putting myself in positions so that after school, after grad school, I can continue doing service work and do as much for the people in Pakistan that I've met and the world itself. That's me.
Shalom. Good afternoon. Namaste. Salam. Peace be upon all of you. My name is Ehsan Mirza. I'm born and raised in Pakistan, Karachi, a country of officially 180 million people. It's probably up to 200 by now. I'm a physician. I work at Kent Hospital in Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm an intensivist. I did my critical care fellowship at Brown University at Rhode Island Hospital. And between me and my wife, who is more of an enthusiast in welfare, social welfare development, with her support, I, for the past few years, have been able to fundraise enough to go once, if not twice a year, to rural Pakistan, where I take medical camps. I hire physicians. I take midwives from my mother's organization. pharmacist. We hold medical camps, treat as much as we can, teach as much as we can in a couple of weeks. I just came back yesterday morning. We saw about 4,000 patients in the area where slightly off where Malala's land is. So it was interesting. So we'll talk more about it, but that's a little bit of my background.
Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. My name is Kuratulain Bakhtiyari. You must be wondering if I am the mother and the grandmother. So the difference in the name, because I kept my maiden name, my father's name, and I did not change after my marriage. I have been raised and brought up in a refugee camp in Karachi when the subcontinent, Indian subcontinent in 47 was divided. And that's a time when my parents were sheltered like millions of refugees in Karachi. And I happened to born there, and my first 12 years of my life was in that camp. And that is where I learned all the community living and sharing and caring and how to be happy with nothing, even if you have no water, no home, no food. Or every day is unpredictable whether you'll get your next meal or not, whether there will be water or not, whether you'll find the house back home after wandering in those camps, I remember. So, but still, in a way that those 12 years taught me how to be contented and happy and be optimistic, because everything was being created in a refugee camp. You know, if any of you have that experience, everything is being created out of nothing. So that became like a second nature of mine. And it was carried on. I was married at 16, naturally, in those days, traditional marriage. 21, I had 3 kids. And I continued with my education. But I was all the time drawn to the communities. And once I did my master's in social work, then I went off into community development. And to date, I am a community activist and a community educationalist. I did my PhD in the same subject from England and built a model of how to build methodologies for change with the people and how to then affect the policies of the country. And doing that and practicing that from Karachi to across the country. And finally, for last 16 years, I'm in Balochistan, a province which is neighboring Afghanistan and Iran. A very tough place to be, but a beautiful place. And people are just wonderful, very misunderstood by the country and internationally. But the lessons are that we need to know more before, with our own selves, we need to really find out more before we really take what media tells us, what the secondary or third sources tell us. It is all so, I must say, so different than what the reality is. Later, if then I'll come back for more on my work, what I do.
Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace be upon you. My name is Muhammad Akhtar. I'm a practicing physician in Rhode Island. I do practice medicine as well as hematology and oncology. And I was born and raised in Pakistan. I went to medical school in Pakistan. And I came to the United States in 1991, and I went to my residency in New Jersey. And then I did my fellowship in cancer medicine at Brown University. So now I practice in a private practice, and I also go to a hospital-based medicine as well. And I'm very lucky to sit next to Dr. Kuratulain Bakhtiyari. She's a giant among all of us. You take my word for it. And I'm really honored and lucky to be sitting next to her. I don't give myself much credit of doing the work I do, because I take it as God's work, and just to be here and explain what I do. And I started, when I started practice, I just started, like everybody else. The purpose was to see more patients and accumulate more money, and more things, been married and kids and all that. And then after the floods in 2010 in Pakistan, it just came to me, if it was building upon me, and I needed to help. So I went right after that, and we had a little meeting. We said, we got to do something. So we said we could connect $5,000 would be great. So when the devastation was such huge that by the time we said it down, we have about $65,000, calculated about $65,000 during that effort. So so I said I will go and see, and so I saw the devastation and the children. They looked no different than my own kids, so that gave me incentive to do something for the kids. So we initially I brought $17,000 and we distributed among different work people were doing. And let me just rephrase everything first. Pakistan is not a country to look for handouts. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, self-reliant people, and that's what makes me go back, because they really don't want our help. But I think at the same time, they, with a little enrichment, they'll do much better. So anyway, in January of 2011, I went there, and I went to this area where the floods were, and the children were walking around with no houses, barely clothes on their back. And I remember the temperature was 0 degrees that day because the car registered it. So we decided to build houses for the kids. So I said, well, we took a small community, and in the Muzaffargarh area, which is about 6 hours drive from my house in Pakistan. So, and that was the nearest place I got to where the flood devastation was. We saw a few places. We liked one area. We said we're going to build houses. Initially thought I'll just give the money out and let them build it. But then the people who were from there said, no, you got to actually build it. If it needs to happen, you have to do it. So we eventually got a team together and we built 27 houses. So those houses, so that completed that small village. So that there are about 300 people kind of accommodating in those 27 houses. So that gave me a taste and empowered me to really, I can do this. It can be done even from living here and then going there. So I've been traveling twice a year to Pakistan. I mean, my dad is there, so I not only just go there for work, but also go to see my family. So, and then I also do work. So I built a foundation which is named under on my mother's name, Rashida Salim Foundation for Human Development, and we registered in Rhode Island, and we also have now a 501c3 organization title for that. So the purpose of the organization, what I do now over there is basically concentrate on schools, and we also have an orphanage that we work for. So we basically enrich the schools. The schools, I take the schools that are already there. Like for example, one school I went, that was next to the flood-affected houses that we built for the village, and it was right in that. The children go there, and it was in bad shape. The children were sitting on the floor, and they were just basically very, very poor environment. So I asked the teacher, what do you actually need? He said, well, first thing we need is desks, and I agree with that, because that really lifts the kids up. So we said, okay, so they were about 90 kids, I don't remember exactly, but around that. So we said, how many? So we sent them 60, by the time I left, but my friends, made it happen, 60 some desks we sent them. That completed the seating arrangement. And when I went back 6 months later, it was a complete transformation of the school by just having the desks. Complete transformation. So, but then we started building a library, then I took additional schools close to where I live, and we also have an orphanage in Faisalabad, where my family is currently residing. So we work on schools and orphanage, and I'm happy to do the work. And I don't take much credit for myself for that because it's not really that important. So, and that's what I started.
Thank you. Going back to you, Hamza, that documentary, I was able to watch the whole entire thing, and we'll put a link up on the One Book blog so that in your time you can watch the whole entire documentary. I'd like to know what made you just basically do this, and what was, and how did you get started, and the whole process?
I want to say until about the beginning of this semester, a lot of what I've done is because of my parents. It's been mostly my mom saying, do this, and me saying, okay. My dad, he said, we're going to Pakistan, we're going to this orphanage, let's do this documentary. I said, okay, let's do it. We went in with, the first thing, if you plan on making a documentary, never go into that documentary with a written plan of what you're going to do, because you're going to realize nothing goes your way. We had all our equipment, we had all the plans we were going to go. We were going to live in the orphanage for a week and document the kids, really get to know the kids. And then we got to the doors of the orphanage, and they say, oh, well, good you're here. We're closing next, they were closing in about 2 days to go on winter break. We're like, okay. So we stayed at the orphanage. I know a lot of the documentary, it kind of seemed a bit choppy, and it was my first documentary. And we just went with the flow. We had a few kids with us, and we were just following their daily lives. And they were really excited to have us there. They had the whole room inspection. And a lot of these kids, there's 200 of the kids in the male orphanage, about 80 girls in the female orphanage, and all of them are orphans in the sense that they either have one or no parents. Usually their fathers passed away, and because they've been sent to this orphanage because their family cannot afford to feed about 4 or 5 kids without a father there. So a lot of these kids have no father, but they have a mother and a home to go to. So there's a boarding school of some sorts to them. But a lot of the kids there were actual orphans affected by the earthquakes in 2005, the flooding in 2010, and there was a Taliban insurgency there a few months earlier where a lot of the kids' parents were caught in the crossfire. And even some kids, in the beginning, when Muhammad Ali, he was talking about the orphanage, they were actually caught in the middle of a crossfire between the Pakistan army and the Taliban. So they had to evacuate, walk 60 kilometers to a neighboring city and refuge there for a little bit. So these kids have been through a lot, but they're some of the brightest kids in that region. And that region being Swat Valley, where Malala's from. Malala's actually from that town. Muhammad Ali was her mentor for the longest time. And we just went, we documented what we could. And the documentary, that's only a small segment of it. The whole documentary itself is an introspective journey throughout Pakistan. I go to Karachi. I lived in Karachi for a while. I went to school there. I went to middle school there. And this is a region that I've never been to. So if you get a chance to see the documentary, you'll see the orphanage. Then traveling through northern Pakistan, we see Kalashi village, which is a village of 4,000 pagans kind of residing in a valley that's surrounded by Taliban. And they're projected to die out in the next 10, 20 years because of the Taliban pressure in the valley. Which is unfortunate because even though they are pagans, like their religion itself is beautiful, they're beautiful people, all very educated people. Everyone that we met had a master's of some sort, which is crazy to think in a valley miles and miles away from proper civilization or proper universities. They were all highly educated people. And then we went to Lahore, which is a place that I've been to a few times, but I got to see in a different light. And it's a very naive, it's a very introspective journey throughout Pakistan. And if you had a chance to see it, I hope you enjoy it.
Dr. Mirza, would you talk a little bit more about your work when you go over there? And again, obviously you were, your mother probably got you involved, but more of the conditions. Your son had said something about a pair of sneakers costs more than educating, feeding, clothing. I mean, I think when you said that, Hamza, I think that registered with us more. Could you just elaborate more on that?
Well, firstly, when I teach my medical students at Kent Hospital, my opening lecture is that you have more than 99% of the entire planet right now on you, meaning the shoes, the watch, the car, the clothes, the books, your $300,000 debt, all that is really more than 99% of the planet they can ever imagine. So you must, and you don't have to go to Pakistan or India or Africa to experience the poverty. You can just go down to Georgia or even North Providence, some part of the Providence behind Rhode Island Hospital. There's some seriously indigent population there. So first of all, I must insist that you have more than what you need, guaranteed. Now, if you go to places like where I like to go and work, $1 right now is equal to about 102 rupees or something like that today. The buying power of $1 compared to 1 rupee is like you can have a full bread, baked oven pita bread for 5 rupees. That's 1/5, 5 cents. For 5 cents, so the food basically is basic food is rather cheap. Living is very expensive. However, the way they are structured in these orphanages that I worked, this was Akhbal Kaur, meaning your own home in Swat, where Malala was from. The other orphanages I went like 15 days ago was the SOS village outside Mansehra, which is part of the global village of SOS, if you've ever Googled SOS village. So what a wonderful project they have. It takes about $50, $60 tops to educate, feed, clothe, board and lodge one child per month in Pakistan. $50. So how they do it, I have no idea. But the cost of living at that level is not that much. You have to understand that you have to clean out all the other garbage that we actually try to own. We want it, but we want to have it, but we really don't need it. So they go down to bare essentials. And when you have bare essential, what that is, like 3 times food, a roof over your head, a nice clean accommodation, and a school, shoes, and friends. And that's all basically what you need. So that's about what it takes. Now, you were looking at that gentleman, Muhammad Ali, who was the principal of the school that Hamza did the documentary of. His principle is very simple, is that if my child cannot study in this school, if my child cannot eat the same food, and if my child cannot sleep here, then no other child shall do that too. So there are people who are extremely motivated, selfless, dedicated, and honest people that are doing such work. Even in SOS Village that I saw, I have my own slideshow, but we don't have time for that. And you see these kids, their eyes can tell whether they're happy or not. And you look into their eyes and you see them happy. And all they have is, they don't have iPhones or iPads or whatever else you guys have nowadays. No sneakers, no 3 pair of jeans, none of that stuff. But they have each other and they're happy. And the people take care of them. So, So what I do basically is, I try to find organizations at grassroots that have good penetration in the community, that can find out places for me that could be center point where I could get patients there for their evaluations. And then I set up a plan and I fundraise, and then I go to Pakistan and take the leap of faith and hope that nothing will happen. And we do a good job. So between the two camps that in the past 2 years I've done, I've seen more than 6,000 patients. And that's a decent number. 6,000 people, lives touched one way or the other. And it's not just my thing. I mean, like, it's more to do with my wife who supports me and the people who fund it. But more importantly, the people at the ground level who are organizing all this, getting the cars, the transportation. Like Tharparkar, Rajasthan desert is like, I kid you not, if I insisted, being the team leader, I insisted that our caravan of vehicles should not break, because if it breaks and the last car, for some reason, breaks down, you cannot possibly find it for whenever. It gets hot during the daytime. Same happens over here, that if your cars are not following the path and the mountain region, there's a ditches there that if it goes off the curb a bit too fast, it's gone. See ya, bye. So it's dangerous territory. But these are the drivers who drive there, the volunteers who get us there, the people who get the pharmacy going over there. I don't know how they make it happen, but they make it happen. So it's not me, it's the people down there. I just fund it. And there are lots of people over here who are willing to fund such things. I just happen to just take it there.
Dr. Bakhtiri, as you know, Malala just recently won the Nobel Peace Prize, and we're honored to see that you have also been a Nobel Peace nominee. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and your Institute of Development Studies, which, as I understand, is a learning institute for young people.
Yes, thank you. Well, my nomination is not really in the same line as Malala's. But what happened was that globally there's a movement that peace does not come by one person. So women across the globe have been struggling for a long time. That role of women in peace and lots of women together bring peace. So this is a kind of a struggle. So they wanted to have about 20 or 25 women from each country to represent that so many women can be nominated. So it was like more of a symbolic, not that heroic as Malala's. What we have been engaged in Balochistan, basically, my focus is, because this is a province which is least developed, has not been mainstream in the development process of the country, and is mainly because it is very thinly populated with a huge mass of land and mountains and deserts. So it doesn't catch that much attention of the politicians. But it is very tribal, very much rooted, and very hardcore, mountainous people who really, when you meet them and when you live with them, you feel that you are in the 14th century or 15th century. But it's beautiful. And their traditions, their way of doing things, and their way of understanding life is so maybe raw, but very natural and very much connecting with the people and the nature. So here it was, the challenge with the government of that province was that no girls' schools were there when I entered there. And I was called in by the government that if I can help them out in promoting girls' education and to help establish girls' schools. So my role was basically to go out village to village. In those days it was like 20,000 villages. and hamlets, small, 10, 15 houses together is also called village there. And I went across with a team to find out what are the obstacles in girls' education. What is it that is not really letting girls' schools being established in this province? And I went around 4,000 villages myself personally. And interestingly, whenever I talked about school and girls' education with the community, with the men, women, elders, tribal chiefs, not a single person was against girls' education. Not a single man or a woman of any stature opposed girls' education. And they immediately offered their land, their place, their home. But there were no girls' teachers. So what do we do that then? There were no women to become teachers in the villages because there have never been girls' schools, so there are no girls who are 10th grader, minimum 10th grader or 8th grader to start the school. So when I entered each and every house in those 4,000 villages, surprisingly, I discovered more than 2,000 girls in those homes with 10th grade or 8th grade education. And I was so surprised. I said, but how come you got this education from where? What they did was their elders, their fathers, their uncles, their grandfathers, their brothers, their cousins who were teaching in boys' schools, they got they coached these girls at home. They used to bring the syllabus from the boys' school and taught these girls at home. And whenever the time came for examination, they got them enrolled in their own schools as boys, as name under the boys' name. And they changed their names for that moment so that they can give the exams. So in the center of the education department, naturally there were no names of the girls from those schools who have 8th to 10th grader. They were all boys, under the boys' names. This demonstrated so strongly to me, myself coming from urban Karachi, where we stand with a slogan that only we know education and we value education. And it was just such a slap on my face that look how desperate they are for girls' education. And what they have done, according to their own sense, whatever was possible, they did it. And within first 6 months, I discovered 2,500 young girls to start schools. So we established more than 2,200 girls' schools in less than 5 years across the province with these girls in the villages. The government of Balochistan came forward and they gave home, they constructed the school buildings, they provided the material, they started giving the salaries to these girls, and they took them on as their own government school teachers. We had to fight for lowering their education level to hire a teacher, and also the age. So wherever a woman who has crossed her service age can be employed if she belongs to that village. And a girl as young as 14 or 15 or 16 can be hired as a teacher because that's the situation. So the policies had to be shifted. And that's where whatever experience I have comes in, to how to create policies according to the people's need, and then grow from there and raise the standards eventually. So these are the lessons and wonderful lessons that we learned, and it gave such a great hope that we created a whole institute of studies and practices with the people of the country. And now we have got about more than 6,000 graduates who are all young people. And they went through our courses in community development. What I've just narrated, these are long stories and there's shortage of time. And those courses we take young people through those courses, and they then come into as community activists in the field of water, sanitation, schools, human rights, child rights, early childhood development, midwives, dress designing courses, You name it, and it's like everything these young people are being, they are taking up as their career, who could not go into regular government schools because of their low standards or their lower grades. So we compensate for that, and our institutes take them on and bring them back in the mainstream of their livelihood and education. The other area is that we try to protect the youth of Pakistan because of what is prevailing across the country. The Western interest is after the youth of the country. And because of the high inflation and because of high employment and poor education, so these are like sitting ducks. Anybody can hire them, pay them few bucks and get whatever they want. So this is another area right now is a challenge for us to divert the government policies into this area and to focus the huge young population who is right now outside the system of education and livelihood, formal education. And we have demonstrated a model that how even excluded young people can be mainstreamed, even though they don't have the right credentials or they don't have those standards. And it is really working well. The government of Balochistan gave us 4 acres of land to construct our institute. And the community built it up with their own technology of mud structure. The way people live, so is our university or our institute is. It's just wonderful and beautiful. And that is where it becomes like we are connecting with the rest of the country. And we connected with Swat, we connected with Rajasthan, because all over the country, we have our graduates now. And we can start any development program anywhere in the country without really having a lot of money or infrastructure or an office or an institute or cars running around here and there or offices. It's the individual that goes out and does things for their own people, the young people he or she gets connected through our coursework by his own inner self, with his own immediate family. The family protection has to come to protect them from the streets, the violence on the streets, the outside culture that takes away the children to do all the wrong things. So we are getting more family support to take care of their own children. Then we have a lot of parenting. And then community development comes in. And from there, we teach them computers and on the net, internet, so they can be connected globally with all their own kinds in the world, how others are doing in their situation and how other young people are progressing. Then why can't they do the same? So these are some examples. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Akhtar, I have to tell you, as you know, I'm a librarian, so as soon as I saw that you help improve libraries, it just warmed my heart. I'd like to talk, if you could just talk a little bit more about, we had a student here, Shabazz Khan, who was here earlier, who talked about how American students, you will always worry about the next generation iPhone or the newest tablet. He says, but back in Pakistan, he's like, we were just happy to have education. Can you just talk a little bit more about some of maybe the classes that the students would take and just maybe a day in the life of a student going to school?
I must say, Pakistan is a big country and a lot of people, and there are some great institutions there as well, like they are here. The medical school I went to is a beautiful institution. It has a huge hospital associated with it, 2,000-bed hospital, and it's a beautiful campus. So I'm just saying, not every school in Pakistan is like bad. So, but I must say that you don't have to go far to find a school that in desperate need. And the reason I started working in school close to where my hometown is now is because I have a good friend who is a veterinarian, and he went to give a lecture in a school how to raise chicken or something. But the headmaster of that school asking if you need anybody who can help us with the desks and benches because we have students sitting on the floor. So when I went there, he told me, and then we went to see the headmaster there, and then we started working with the school. So there are a lot of people who really want to be, the teachers are really good. I mean, they really want what is best for their student, like here. The teachers are very good and they want the best. But sometimes the resources are so limited that it's almost ironic So, for example, I went to this school. I saw a nice big room. I said, "What is that?" He said, "That's our computer lab." So I said, "But why is locked?" He said, well, you know, they built the building, but they ran short in money, so they didn't have the electricity." I said, "But you have electricity right there?" He said, "Oh yeah, but they ran short in money, so they can." So basically, this room has about 6 computers in it, and they had 2 computer teachers in the school. They're paid by the government, and they're collecting salaries, but they're not doing anything because the computer room that was built has no electricity. So I said, well, so that's easy to fix. So I'm just saying, we spent 17,000 rupees, which is about 170 bucks. We got an electrician, got electricity from literally from down to here, and electrify the room, and we put 2 fans in there, and the computer room came alive. And it's just nice to see because it's just so easy to do. I mean, simple things like that. So now I bought them 10 additional computers. I have gone, and every time I visit, and I bought there. So because it's so good to see that finally now they're online, their computers are working, and they're online. So by just for 170 bucks. So you know, there are a lot of small stories, but I'm just saying it's amazing that how much difference you can make but very little money. Somebody said, "Oh, you know, you can't do this work because you need a lot of money." And I said, no. Actually, people who have done most work in the world actually had no money. And we have an example in Pakistan of Idi. This gentleman has no money, and he has spent billions of dollars because people just come and give him money because he's an honest guy, and he does running a huge enterprise in Pakistan. That includes the ambulances, the largest in the world, actually. Enterprise that is run by him, and he lives in a small house. He had no money to start with. And all money, people just come and donate tremendous amount of money to him. And he runs, as I said, all the ambulance system literally in the Pakistan is run through his organization. All the dead are buried through his, who have nobody claims it, buried through him. All the women who leave their houses for domestic violence or something are hosted by him. He runs a huge orphanage throughout the country. So what I'm saying is some of the people who do most work had no money. So I just say, you know, so I think that's maybe the lesson for everybody. There's just a lot of nice people here, well-meaning people. And that activism not only necessary in Pakistan or Africa, it is necessary here too. You know, so we can all use some of it. You know, and I say it doesn't take long. Actually, you know, it's a small little story. When I first wanted to go in 2010 in August, right after the flood, a patient of mine asked me, "What are you going to do there?" I said, "I honestly don't know, but I'm just going to go." And I said, "I'm going to bring a bunch of money, and I'm just going to go." She said to me, "Never underestimate the power of one." And I tell you, never underestimate the power of yourself, so you guys can bring a lot of change. And America is a very powerful country, and I think you as American and me as American, my kids are American, are very powerful people. So what I suggest to you, you know, let's seek peace and justice in the world, and that brings everything possible, makes everything possible.
And not to believe in the media.
Yeah, not to believe in the media. Just seeks justice, and you guys are very powerful. We all are powerful as people, and we just have to explore, find that power in us. And we all have the ability to do what we are doing a little bit, but I'm just saying you all have there's tremendous need in the world. And as my organization, we also have contributed to Ebola fight. We have contributed to Syrian refugees. We have contributed to needy people in the United States. So it's just not Pakistan. It's just wherever the need may be, you know, where we should be able to help out as people of this planet, not just Americans, but everybody.
Thank you. At this point, does anybody have any questions for any one of the panelists? Anybody would like to ask a question? I can come to you with my microphone. Anybody? Good a question? Yep, hold on a sec. Okay, sure, we'll come back to you. Sure.
Thank you for that wonderful information and for being so inspirational. I wanted to know if at all during the work that you were doing when you got started or as you were doing it, if you ever felt like giving up, and what was it that motivated you to keep going? Because I'm sure there were obstacles along the way.
I mean, what motivates is when I saw those kids going around without much clothes and had no place to stay, no house to live in, and I thought they looked no different from my kids, really. And I said, that's not fair. So I think what motivates is when I look at my kids and how much they have in here, and how much other people don't have. So my main purpose of the foundation, if I were to put it in few words, is work for the kids. So that's how I focus on. But that's my farm. I mean, just saying, there are different ways you can do this task. But when I look at my kids and I say, and he has this, and well, he has a house, so we got to build a house. So we did that, and now suddenly you say you're able to do that, And it's amazing. Pakistan is amazing because you can actually, there is very little lead tape. When you have money, you can just make things happen very quickly, So then we said, well, let's work on the school. And that school is transformed by very little money. And by just doing that, the school enrollment has increased. Like we used to, now it's 135 students in the same school. And there's another school, a girls' school I work in Faisalabad area. And the schools has, I went to, there's a madam I work with, and she said there is a student, it has a girls' school, but small boys go there too. This boy, it has no money for uniform. So every day the teacher reminded, you gotta have uniform, I'm just saying. So, I mean, this guy looked beat up because he didn't have uniform. And it cost me 600 rupees to buy him 2 uniforms, which is $6. It's so much easy sometimes. So we say, I ask teacher, what do they need? They say they need uniform. I am against uniform, but I'm against, doing temporary things that are, I like to see substantial things, build something. But, uniforms are very important. I said, we'll do that. So we gave everybody in the school uniform. So we bought everybody uniform. And you know what? The enrollment has increased from 350 students on that school, now it's like 425. Oh, so this school gives uniform, gives clothes too, so let's enroll our kids there. So I'm just saying, simple things can make a big difference. Now I was just talking to madam the other day. I said, now I'm going to go next month. So I'm going to say, make a list of students. They said there's some students come without shoes. So we're going to buy them shoes. So it doesn't take a lot. I mean, it really develops the school per se, because school enrollment has increased. So this is how, there are difficulties always, but I enjoy this work so much because I see the smile on the kids' faces. And, so I've never been a dull moment. There have been times I've been discouraged, like when I used to travel 6 hours one way and 6 hours one way to 12 hours just to get there, or get and back. And then we used to stay there 2-3 hours and do the work. That was exhausting. But I'm just saying, but it is worthwhile work, and anybody can do it. And I assure you, it is in you, all of you, to do it at a smaller scale or a bigger scale. And as I said, America is a very powerful country. You guys are going to be in different positions of power. Make sure your people are no different. They may live in another country. They'll speak another language. They dress differently, but the kids are really the same and people are the same. Let's make sure we look out for each other and do things that are good for everybody. Sorry, did I answer the question?
Well, I don't know if this is a question or if this is acclimate for everybody on the panel, but individually, I look at you all and I see individual strength, and as a family, that's rare. That you would go across the waters into another place just to help other people, although they may be the same as you. And I hear you all mentioning that, well, everyone, deserves and should feel like they're loved and cared for. My concern is like humanitarian. We, as people, we all need to be more humanitarian and try to help one another. And I feel like coming across to, from you all there. Just wondering when you first visioned this. I mean, if you can go back that far, when you first visioned it, did you ever think that it would, come out to you doing speaking at universities all over, wherever even? So, anyone on the panel?
I can definitely speak towards that. I'm only like 19. I'm a sophomore in college. I never thought I'd be here. I'm lucky to have the support group that I have from my parents, who they know. Actually, I was invited here because I was at an Eid dinner, and my mother was talking to some, I think she's a teacher here, and she said, she was talking about my documentary, and they said, like, she was like, that's interesting. I'd love to talk to him. So I'm lucky enough to have those connections. And as someone who wants to work as a humanitarian, I want to work in public health. I'm getting my degree in public policy and a minor in healthcare administration. I want to do all these things after college. I want to work for NGO. I want to work for the government. I want to help as many people as I can. But it is hard. I know I was doing a fundraiser Monday night for the orphanage. It was through the Pakistani community of Yukon. And I was texting all my friends and like, hey, come on, come to this fundraiser. It's only $5. It goes towards these kids. And you'll find that not as many people are as inspired as you. Not as many people want to make the same difference in the world as you. And that's hard. It is hard. I know when I was talking to my friends, I was talking to them today or yesterday. I'm saying I'm coming to Bristol Community College to give the speech to panelists on Malala. They're like, who's Malala? That, like, educated kids asked, who's Malala? And that's a bit discouraging because you see all these problems, you want to make a difference, and you realize that people are very comfortable with it where they are. They aren't willing to go above and beyond. I'm lucky to have the father, mother, and the grandmother that I do, to know the people that I do that inspire me on a daily basis to make me not ride the coattails of my parents. I've been riding my parents' coattails for the longest time, but now because of all these people that I've met, the adventures that I've been on, the experience that I've had, I have the ability to be accountable for myself and become an inspiration for other people. And I know it's hard. I'm sure many of you people are here because you want to make a difference. It is hard, but don't be discouraged, because then you end up to be like my grandmother, who went through as much adversity in the world, and now she's not only talking here, she's talking all around the world, giving speeches to a lot of people. She worked for UNICEF. She's a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. And I would just say just keep grinding. The struggle's real, but, you just got to keep pushing.
Just when you work with people who have nothing, you tend to realize that you are not important. they are important. If you work genuinely with them, so very soon, if you keep on doing it, you stop worrying about your own personal projection. It becomes very important that you deliver to them, and you forget that whether I'm going to be getting nominated for Nobel Prize or whether I'll be going to give a lecture here or there. You very soon forget all that, and you just get focused on, okay, this is my next project. Let's get on with that. And then that's my next project. These opportunities come. If they don't come, it will not stop me from doing what I need to do.
We have time for like one more question. Does anybody have a question? Yep.
Hi. Is the threat of attacks against schools in Pakistan, is it still as big of a threat as it was, or is it getting better?
As I said, doubt what media tells you. Right now, Pakistan is going through, like, officially it is not declared, but insurgency. And the vested interest is attacking all those institutions which is run by the government or which is promoted by the civilized world. It's not girls' education, but the school is a symbol of a government institution, of a power that they want to attack. They want to attack banks. It's not only schools, banks, railway stations, airports. So, for example, in Balochistan, which is very tribal, which is very same, if you want to say, where the schools are being attacked. Not a single school, girls' school, have been attacked. Not a single school have been blown up in that province, because that province is still not in the mainstream stream of all that's happening. But again, there were one or two boys or girls' schools were blown up by the separatists who are fighting with the government. So it is, the schools are a very soft target. They're out in the wilderness. They are not protected. It's government building. Most of the time, there are no children in the schools. So they targeted to give a message to the government that they're fighting against, that it is how they feel. But it is not really against girls' education. It's against government institutions because of this way the situations is. Sometimes it is, yes, there are areas, places or people who do say that we don't want girls' education, but that is a very, very small minority now in Pakistan. It is no more. You talk to the parents, you talk to the ordinary people, they're desperate for education. You heard him say, we established in less than 5 years, 2,200 girls' schools. In less than 5 years, 300,000 girls were enrolled in it by the community, by the parents. Never in the history it has happened. So it's all very confused messages that is coming from that part of the world.
I just wanted to add something. But, I mean, there is no, nobody against girls' education that I know or that we grew up. There's no doubt, there's no conflict between girls' education. Our prime minister, we had a woman prime minister twice in Pakistan. Not here, hasn't happened in United States yet. You know, so it's not, we have tons of physicians. We have more women physicians now than men physicians coming out of medical colleges. So there is no conflict with girls' education. Yeah, you know, so this is not in doubt. This Taliban is a torture for our country created by external forces. If you read Malala's book, she says that in that. If you actually read it, you know, these Taliban were created to fight Cold War, you know, with the help of United States. with the help of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan military. Three forces joined together to create mujahideen that fought Russia in Afghanistan to win the Cold War. And they are remnant left over from that. This is an aberrancy. This is absolutely not the mainstream. So as far as ideology, do Pakistan or Pakistan people are against women? They're absolutely not. You know, this Taliban is, you know, is a residual from that era. And, you know, so I think hopefully it fades. They don't represent Pakistan. They don't represent Pakistan people. They don't. They were created by external forces. As I said, there were three forces in Pakistan military with ISI and Saudi money and United States support, military and financial support, created this Taliban. So they were originally they were called Mujahideen, and now when the United States won the Cold War, United States left. They saw they got a gun. These people who were born now they got gun. So now they try terrorizing people. So this is a philosophy is not a Pakistani philosophy.
If I could really add in it, I asked several times from the media to document this educational work that communities are doing, that people are doing. The television doesn't have any time for them. All the time who have been interviewed are the ones who have a voice, who represent a political party, who represent a point of view of some leaders or some ideology. But ordinary people never get time at the media to say what they are doing, what they want. They never get any access to the media. If only they can come and speak, then only you will know what real, actual Pakistanis are, what the ordinary people are of Pakistan, which are majority. But the media doesn't cover the good stories, the positive breakthroughs, the way communities, huge communities resisted when a woman lady doctor was kidnapped by these Talibans. Whole Pashin community is where we work. Just no forces, no police, no army. The people themselves fought with them, and got the lady doctor recovered and finished them all by themselves. The ordinary people did it. The way the people of Pakistan are standing up against these resistance without any support from, because they are just people. When their community or somebody is attacked, they have to just come and, I mean, they are not prepared like a soldier or something. But everywhere, the ordinary people are making a big difference. And this is how we are all still surviving and growing. Pakistan is a very misunderstood country at the moment. And we have to really find out what is truth and what is real and what is being told. It's really unfortunate, very unfortunate these days. Thank you.
Thank you. The One Book Committee would personally like to thank Farah Habib for helping us put together this panel. Without her, this wouldn't have been possible. We also like to personally thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to come here and talk to us. I mean, I wish we had more time, because I could go on forever. I have a bazillion questions I'd like to ask. But again, thank you very much. Please refer back to the One Book blog or our Facebook page. We have links up to the full documentary, and if you could share your presentation with us, we'd be more than happy to share that as well. So thank you. Give them a big round of applause.
I spent a lot of summers in Pakistan working with my grandmother. When there was the earthquake in '05, I was with my grandmother. We were doing relief there. I spent plenty of summers working with my grandmother's organization, IDSP. I've spent a good amount. Me and my father, we went to Pakistan last winter, did a medical camp there, where he actually just came back from doing a second one. So I've been pretty involved with doing work in Pakistan. And service has always been a pretty big issue in my own life. I worked with an organization at Brown called International Exchange, and we would do work with the family homeless shelter in Providence and working with recent immigrants and helping them assimilate into life in Rhode Island. I went to LaSalle Academy in Providence, so I've lived in Rhode Island most of my life. And now that UConn, I'm doing my own work there. I'm fundraising. I actually had a fundraiser last night where we raised money to adopt an orphan for all intents and purposes. And I'm showcasing this movie at UConn next semester, hopefully raise more money for them. I'm just putting myself in positions so that after school, after grad school, I can continue doing service work and do as much for the people in Pakistan that I've met and the world itself. That's me.
Shalom. Good afternoon. Namaste. Salam. Peace be upon all of you. My name is Hassan Mirza. I'm born and raised in Pakistan, Karachi, a country of officially 180 million people. It's probably up to 200 by now. I'm a physician. I work at Kent Hospital in Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm an intensivist. I did my critical care fellowship at Brown University at Rhode Island Hospital. And between me and my wife, who is...
And I went to my residency in New Jersey, and then I did my fellowship in cancer medicine at Brown University. So now I practice in a private practice, and I also go to a hospital-based medicine as well. And I'm very lucky to sit next to Dr. Kuratharan Bakhtiari. She's a giant among all of us. You take my word for it. And I'm really honored and lucky to be sitting next to her. I don't give myself much credit of doing the work I do because I take it as God's work. And just to be here and explain what I do. And I started, when I started practice, I just started, like everybody else. The purpose was to see more patients and accumulate more money, and more things, being married and kids and all that. And then after the floods in 2010 in Pakistan, it just came to me, it was building upon me, and I needed to help. So I went right after that, and we had a little meeting. We said, we got to do something. So we said we could connect $5,000 would be great. So when the devastation was such huge that by the time we said it down, we have about $65,000, calculated about $65,000 during that effort. So so I said I will go and see, and so I saw the devastation and the children. They look no different than my own kids, so that gave me incentive to do something for the kids. So we initially I brought $70,000 and we distributed among different work people were doing. And let me just rephrase everything first. Pakistan is not a country to look for handouts. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, self-reliant people. And that's what makes me go back, because they're
To be contented and happy and be optimistic, because everything was being created in a refugee camp. If any of you have that experience, everything is being created out of nothing. So that becomes like a second nature of mine. And it was carried on. I was married at 16, naturally, in those days, traditional marriage. 21, I had 3 kids. And I continued with my education. But I was all the time drawn to the communities. And once I did my master's in social work, then I went off into community development. And to date, I am a community activist and a community educationalist. I did my PhD in the same subject from England and built a model of how to build methodologies for change with the people, and how to then affect the policies of the country. And doing that and practicing that from Karachi to across the country. And finally, for last 16 years, I'm in Balochistan, a province which is neighboring Afghanistan and Iran. A very tough place to be, but a beautiful place. And people are just wonderful. very misunderstood by the country and internationally. But the lessons are that we need to know more before, with our own selves, we need to really find out more before we really take what media tells us, what the secondary or third sources tell us. It is all so, I must say, so different than what the reality is. Later, if I'll come back for more on my work, what I do.
Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace be upon you. My name is Muhammad Akhtar. I'm a practicing physician in Rhode Island. I do practice medicine as well as hematology and oncology. And I was born and raised in Pakistan. I went to medical school in Pakistan. And I came to the United States in 1991.
More of an enthusiast in welfare, social welfare development. With her support, I, for the past few years, have been able to fundraise enough to go once, if not twice a year, to rural Pakistan, where I take medical camps. I hire physicians. I take midwives from my mother's organization, pharmacists. We hold medical camps, treat as much as we can, teach as much as we can. In a couple of weeks. I just came back yesterday morning. We saw about 4,000 patients in the area where, slightly off where Malala's land is. So it was interesting. So we'll talk more about it, but that's a little bit of my background.
Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. My name is Quratulain Bakhtiari. You must be wondering if I'm the mother and the grandmother. So the difference in the name, because I kept my maiden name, my father's name, and I did not change after my marriage. I have been raised and brought up in a refugee camp in Karachi when the subcontinent, Indian subcontinent in 47 was divided. And that's a time when my parents were sheltered like millions of refugees in Karachi. And I happened to born there, and my first 12 years of my life was in that camp. And that is where I learned all the community living and sharing and caring and how to be happy with nothing, even if you have no water, no home, no food. Or every day is unpredictable whether you'll get your next meal or not, whether there'll be water or not, whether you'll find the house back home after wandering in those camps, I remember. So, but still, in a way that those 12 years taught me how.
Our panel of activists and volunteers. We're gonna first. We're gonna start it in a little bit with a documentary done, but I want to introduce our panel first. We have Dr. Ahsan Mirza. I'm sorry, he's here. You have their bios in front of you, and we also have his son Hamza Mirza, who we're going to be viewing his documentary in a couple of minutes, and we are very happy to have Dr. N. Bakhtiari, who have joined us today to talk about their experiences going back to Pakistan to help the children there, particularly orphans in their orphanage. Just show of hands, how many of you already do some kind of volunteering in your community, neighborhood, whether it's giving canned donations or anything like that, working with food pantries? So we do have a couple people. Great. So hopefully by the end of this panel, perhaps you will take away with you maybe different ways that you can get involved, right? Malala, one of my favorite quotes from her is, it's one girl, one book, one pen can make a difference, and you can make a difference. Even if we're doing a lot of food drives around campus, even if it's just bringing canned goods and dropping it off in a box, you did something, right? It's better than just watching some of the stuff go on in the news and just say, oh, that's so sad, and it's just too bad, and then changing the channel, right? We all need to make a difference. So without further ado, we're going to start just a small clip of the documentary that Hamza has put together, went back to Pakistan and filmed for us. So go ahead. I want to thank you for that. That's extraordinary. So now that we have our full panel, I'd like you all to just, again, introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about the work that you do. Starting with you, Hamza, tell us a little about how you, where you go to school and how you started with this documentary.
Hey everyone. So I'm a sophomore at the University of Connecticut. I've started this work at a pretty young age. I'm lucky enough to have the grandmother and the parents that I